Thank you, Mr. President. It's good to see you up there, Mr. President, far away from us, but I know your heart is here on the floor, especially when I deliver this speech.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. With the permission of the body, as my colleagues who have been with me in the 18th Congress already know, this matter is very close to my heart, and I hope in the opening of the 19th Congress it will also be close to your heart. Mr. President, I received news just a few hours ago that the vape bill has just passed into law. Today, the tobacco industry rejoices with the passage of this law. Naloko na naman nila ang taong bayang Pilipino. It is shocking, to say the least, how differently other countries deal with this. In the 18th Congress, we debated and we put on record that some countries have actually banned the use of e-cigarettes, heated tobacco products, and vapes. In the United States, where it is allowed, the US FDA had actually placed dual application for its electronic cigarettes under additional review. Pag-aaralan pa, bago man lang matikman ng mga kabataan nila. Aralin daw muna nilang sigurado. They did this in order to ensure that the e-cigarettes benefit public health. Hindi lang yung wag nakakasama, gusto nila may benepisyo. Tayo, anong ginawa natin? I'll get to that in a few minutes. In fact, in the US, 55,000 flavors were rejected by the US FDA kasi nga walang proven health benefit. And here we are in this country, we passed a bill that has just lapsed into law. That will not even, hindi man lang dadaan sa gate ng FDA, doon na lang daw sa DTI. Isipin nyo, mga kasama, ako may anak, 12 years old. Binilang ko. Pagdating niya ng last year ng senior high, he will be 18. Target na siya ng mga e-cigarette and vape companies. Bakit nangyari yun? Kasi pinasa ng 18th Congress ang bill na yan. You know, dear colleagues, I felt a glimmer of hope during the SONA yesterday when the President repeatedly emphasized that science will be a cornerstone of his administration's programs sa agriculture, sa health, and education. I thought this meant that the vape bill was vetoed. Di pa lang na-report. Because science clearly tells us how harmful these products are. Medical experts have repeatedly said that the vape bill is masquerading as a health measure. What it does is it deregulates. It does not regulate. It is harm introduction, not harm reduction. To say that I am disappointed in the 18th Congress that passed the bill and with the President for not vetoing it will not do justice to the millions of lives that will be put in harm's way because of the vape bill. I will divide the discussion into two parts, procedural and substantive. On the procedural issue, how did we get here? Listen carefully, dear colleagues, because this is very interesting, I promise you. The vape bill was passed by both houses after BICAM on January 26, 2022. For those who were running for re-election, tandaan nyo yan kasi a few days na lang, magbe-break na, mangangampanya na kayo. January 26. As the campaign went on, I was monitoring and wondering, kailan kaya yan matatransmit sa Malacanang? Dahil, hindi ko dinideny, panay ang padala ko ng prayers, spiritual prayers, and prayers to the President na i-veto niya yan. Tataka ako, March, wala pa. Sige lang, baka documentation, papers. April, wala pa rin. May, wala pa rin. Kalagitnaan ng June, wala pa rin. Hindi pa rin natatransmit sa Malacanang. Ano na nangyari? 5 months passed before that bill was transmitted to Malacanang. 5 months. By comparison, dear colleagues, yung ibang bill, Marawi Siege Victims Compensation Act, was transmitted to the office in less than a month. Foundling Recognition and Protection Act, very close to the heart of my compañera over there, Senator Risa and Senator Grace. It was transmitted to the Office of the President in 2 months. And the Anti-Trafficking Act, again, a bill of our colleague Senator Risa, was transmitted in 3 months. Ito, 5 months. Bakit kaya itong bill na tenga ng ganon? Fina-follow up ko, nasa desk daw ng ating high officials of Congress. Ano kaya inantay nila? Is it because nabalitaan nila na balak i-veto ni Presidente? Is it because ang balita ay kinaladkad pa doon sa meeting kay Presidente ang mga high officials ng tobacco company para makiusap? Pero ang sagot ni Presidente, kinuwento niya ang kanyang personal health condition na galing daw sa tobacco. Clearly indicating na balak niyang i-veto. Di ko alam. Kwento-kwento lang naman. So eto tayo, 5 months, barely 3 days, just before the weekend na matatapos ang term ni President Duterte saka pinadala. This poses a lot of questions, dear colleagues. Tama ba yun that the members of the 18th Congress who passed the bill, natapos na yung term nila, natapos na rin yung term ng Presidente, na kung sino dapat magdesisyon, kung i-veto niya yon or ilalaps into law niya, o kung ano man ang balak niyang gawin, dinelay para makarating sa next President? That is a legal quandary, my dear colleagues. And for such an important issue, again, I wash my hands. I refuse to be part of this historical moment where nagawa ito ng 18th Congress. I move on now to the substantial issues. For the information of the newly elected and comebacking members of Congress, the previous law, Republic Act number 11467, Sin Tax Reform Law, was enacted on January 22, 2020. So, timeline. Nag-start ang 18th Congress July ng 2019. By December, napasa natin ang Sin Tax Law. Within how many months? Kasi priority revenue measure yon. Doon nagkaroon ng debate. Senator Tol was actually a proponent of banning. Pero we debated it and, nadala pa natin sa diskusyon. Kung naaalala nyo, well, di naman natin panahon yon. Wala na siguro umabot dito noon. Sa US, yung prohibition. So sabi, wag tayong ganun, wag natin i-ban, i-regulate natin. So that decision was made to regulate sin products, including vapes, in the sin tax law. And to regulate it, to be able to collect tax money, we wanted to be sure na protected din ang mga tao. So we passed 3 important provisions in that sin tax law. Number 1, ang dapat mag-regulate is FDA, Food and Drug Authority. Siya talagang may trabaho niyan. I'll go into that later some more. And we also said na dapat ang may access niyan age 21 kasi all over the world, ang move, pati sa sigarilyo, papunta na sa 21. Do you know, is it Australia, that age in Australia? I think it's Australia, I'm having my staff confirm. They passed a law where if you were born this year, you will never touch a cigarette in your life, kahit 18 years old ka na. Ganong katindi ang tobacco regulation in other countries. Anyway, I digress. The third protective measure was only plain tobacco and menthol is allowed. My brother, Senator Alan Cayetano, was the Speaker of the House when this bill was passed. When he was no longer Speaker, the House immediately passed a vape bill, and soon after, in the Senate, my vape bill and a number of other vape bills which were pending in the Committee on Health was transferred to the Committee on Trade, and the Committee on Trade created a subcommittee which was chaired by Senator Recto, and they proceeded to discuss this measure as if it was a trade measure, which is clearly on the record. Secondary ang health. Who cares kung mamatay ang mga bata? Basta yun daw gustong tumigil manigarilyo, may access sila. Well, guess what? You don't need a vape bill para magka-access. Open your phone, dun sa mga may GCash, yan ang unang-unang ad na magpa-pop up. Available po ang e-cigs, HTPs, at lahat ng variations ng vapes without a vape bill. So to say na kailangan ng vape bill para yung mga gustong tumigil manigarilyo may access, that's a lie. Gusto nila ng vape bill because gusto nilang tanggalin yung tatlong provision na sinabi ko sa inyo. At yun na nga ang nangyari. Pinasa ng 18th Congress under my objections again and again and again, lowering the age of access to 18, making the DTI responsible for this harmful product, and opening the flavors to more and more flavors, which, as shown in other countries, is the #1 attraction to young people, more flavors. The FDA law is clear. It regulates all things that may have an effect on health. Dear colleagues, I was the chairman of the Committee on Health when we passed the FDA law in 2009. The provision of the FDA law states health products means food, drugs, cosmetics, devices, biologicals, vaccines, in vitro diagnostic reagents, and household urban hazardous substances, and or a combination and a derivative thereof. It shall refer to products that may have an effect on health. May effect ba sa health ang vapes? Meron! The proponents claim it's a good effect kasi better daw than cigarettes. O di may effect pa rin, di ba? But this Congress, I hope not this 19th Congress, the 18th Congress decided hindi siya health product. Ilagay natin yan sa DTI. This industry, dear colleagues, is slimy. They have a track record of avoiding regulation. In in 2009, when we passed the FDA law that I just mentioned, it was clearly intended to cover tobacco products. Sabi nga all products that have an effect on health. When the FDA issued regulations covering cigarette products, pina-TRO ng tobacco company yan. Yes, pinangungunahan niya ng Philippine Tobacco Institute. Members include Philip Morris Fortune Tobacco Corporation. Ilang taon yan sa korte kasi ayaw nila magpa-regulate. Excluded daw sila, special sila. Do not regulate tobacco in the Philippines para lahat ng mga Pilipino ma-addict sa sigarilyo at mamatay sa lung cancer. Yan ang posisyon ng tobacco industry, including the Philippine Tobacco Institute. But guess what? A few weeks later, 13 years after I passed that law, with a few of you here, of course, Lauren was here, a few others, my batchmate, Senator Lito, Senator Jinggoy, Senator Bong, among others. When we passed that law, it's been 13 years. Finally, the Supreme Court said, covered ang tobacco. Covered. It's a victory. Covered. Very clear. The Supreme Court said, tobacco products are undoubtedly health products within the definition under RA number 9711 or the Food and Drug Administration Act of 2009 due to their harmful effects on health. As to the health aspect, tobacco products fall under the regulatory authority of the Food and Drug Administration. Marami pa siyang sinabi. Shortcut, I won't belabor the point. Of course, the tobacco industry files a reconsideration. So pending pa rin yan. Tama ba yun? Tama ba yun? Let's decide, dear colleagues, because we can put an end to this now. Now, let me ask you, if we can allow a product that clearly has effects on health, whether harmful, not so harmful, very harmful, you decide, we're not the experts. What's next? Where will the next lobby come from, dear colleagues? As I continue my speech, I will put on my table, I'll put here on my, ano ba tawag ko dito? My podium, things that are on my table and in my handbag. Yung alcohol na galing sa ating Senate Secretariat, salamat. Ang aking Nivea sunblock for my lips. Kasi as we age, we get sunspots, and I have a sunspot on my lip that hopefully is not harmful. It is just hopefully cosmetically unpleasant. Sunblock. Ang aking, ladies, new discovery, 24-hour stay-on lipstick, mints, eyeshadow, and compact powder. Lahat to laman ng bag ko. What's next? Where will the next lobby come from? Sino dyan na ngayon magsasabi na huwag nyo kami i-regulate, DTI na lang. Kasi kahit ipahid mo yan sa mata mo, di bali nang mabulag ka. I am now passing around a basket of other similar products that I want you, dear colleagues, to take time to look at. Because this is what we are allowing to happen in our country. Pagbigyan nyo yung mga page na pinapakita nila sa inyo yan, okay? Because I want it to be visually in your head. This is what we are allowing to happen. Paano contact lenses? May show of hands, sinong naka-contact lens dito? Meron ba, dear colleagues? Ako dati, pero nagpa-laser ako. O, ayaw nyo, mami. Contact lens. Alam nyo na uso yung colored contacts, di ba? O paano pag sinabing, wag na? Kasi yung arguments that I heard, mahirap kausap FDA. Wag na natin lagay sa FDA. Ganon? E di palitan nyo yung FDA head kung mahirap kausap. Wag nyo ilipat sa DTI. That's not their job. Now I ask you, all of you have access to the internet on your cell phones, on your laptops, on your iPads, whatever. Check out the mandate of DTI. Saan dyan nakalagay na they are in charge of health? Now, let me take you on a walk through memory lane. I was a new lawyer when I started my job in Castillo-Lamantan, Pantaleon Law Offices. And one of our clients was Pepsi, and there was this 349 fiasco. If you remember, yung 349 for the young ones, for those watching, 349 was this promo na pag nakita mo sa Tansan, yung winning promo, you're gonna win something. And nagkamali kasi parang millions of people got a 349 Tansan, which entitled them to, I don't know, millions of pesos. So there was a case. And you go to DTI, because DTI's mandate is to settle these cases. So I go to DTI to look at these claims because kliyente nga namin. But guess what? Meron din claims against soft drinks, you know, it doesn't matter what the brand is. May claims kasi daw pag inom nila ng straw or canned goods, may lumulutang, may ipis, may ano that happens. Okay, whatever the brand is. The DTI website says, go to FDA. Pero ngayon sa vapes, tayo, Congress said. Kung nabahala, DTI, wala na kaming pakialam sa healthcare ng mga kabataan. Ay, nako, buti na lang athlete ako kasi otherwise nag-hyperventilate na ako. You know what, dear colleagues? I look at my dear colleague here, Senator Coco. He has a baby. Paano kung ang next na targetin nila, baby wipes? Diaper rash cream. Paano? Sabihin na, wag na. Tagal magpa-approve sa FDA. Wag na, DTI na lang yan. Ganon. O yung pinason ko sa inyo, paano yung insect repellent, dengue? Wag na lang sa FDA. Wag na, tagal eh. Yun lang naman yung sinagot nyo sa akin eh. Tagal. Hirap kausap. Sabi nyo pa, tumanggap ng pera. Eh, tumatanggap talaga ng pera yun galing sa WHO and recognized agencies of WHO to protect healthcare. Alam nyo ba, one of the first things I did when I was a new senator also was I defended my bill on expanded immunization for children. Why? Because the grant of UNICEF on hepatitis vaccines was coming to an end. Pag tapos na yung grant nila, kasi binibigay nila sa poorest of the poor, hindi na tayo poorest of the poor, so bibigay nila sa ibang bansa. So pag hindi natin pinondohan yon sa health budget, mawawala na yung vaccination ng HEPA. So I had to put it in a law. Tagal bago pumasa yung law, pero because we took it up on the floor, DOH started budgeting for it. Why do I mention that? Well, I mentioned that because ganun din yun. Galing din sa ibang agency yung pera na yun. To stop hepatitis. Ito is to stop a preventable sicknesses like lung disease and so many other complications that come from tobacco. And vapes, make no mistake, also has those harmful ingredients. I am about to end. To the new members of the Senate, I hope, well actually, to the new members and to all of us, I hope we remember that every decision we make in every bill will change the lives of Filipinos. For better or worse, your vote matters. Putting at risk the health of our people and future generations through this law will haunt our collective conscience down the road. When we wake up to a generation addicted to vapes, that's on the 18th Congress that passed the vape bill and on this administration that allowed it to pass. I have an intern, she's 17 years old. Her friends are all vaping. That, dear colleagues, is the situation. Are you going to listen to the proponents of vape that said, at least hindi sila naninigarilyo. My dears, pag may addict ba sa pamilya mo, sasabihin mo, at least hindi heroin, ano lang, hindi sinasaksak, nilalaklak lang. Ganon? No, if you care about health, you care about health. Cigarettes may be here, but the dangers imposed by vapes and e-cig is still here. It's not here. That's our job, to listen to the science. And I go back to the SONA, science daw. And I am sad because I want to support this administration. The success of this administration is the success of the Filipino people. I wrote to the DTI, the Department of Education, the Department of Finance, because the former Department of Finance supported this. It's not about generating revenue. The revenue is there in the sin tax law. Hindi mababawasan. And I had hope that we would get the support of these agencies to veto this bill. The usual supporters, of course, came forward, the DOH, the FDA, and the 60 health organizations that know their shit. Sorry, strike off the record. That know their business. They supported the veto of this bill. I am heartened that our new Senate President says that in the earlier discussion with Senator Loren, and I think who brought up the topic of nuclear, Senator Tol, I think. Our Senate President said that he had a different view, then he changed his mind. I'm not commenting on nuclear because I have to admit I'm also one who will study it further. But I'm happy because that is our job, to study. It is not an embarrassment to change your mind. In fact, I pride myself. This may sound weird, but I pride myself in being humble because I believe that my job is to always listen to contrary opinions and be persuaded by science. So it is no harm, and that is something that we can still do down the road. So that is our task. We are called to study, to be willing to change our position when the science and evidence calls for it. My heart is broken, but my spirit is not. I will never stop fighting for the health and well-being of the Filipinos, even against strong lobbies of industries and policymakers who choose to support their interests over the Filipino people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much to our distinguished colleague from...
Sorry,
Yes.
Mr. President, can I just change? I mentioned Australia, that they have this new law which bans the selling of products when you... So even if you're born today, they count 18 years from now, you will not be allowed to purchase those products, even if you're an adult. That is New Zealand, just for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. To our distinguished colleague, thank you for your very passionate speech and your advocacy on health. Majority Floor Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. At this juncture, we recognize the distinguished gentleman from Taguig, Senator Alan Peter Cayetano, the former Speaker of the House, to ask questions, some questions, Mr. President. Thank you.
Yes, to our distinguished colleague from Taguig, my classmate in the 11th Congress, 11th, 12th, 13th, and all the Congresses that I've been into, you are recognized, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader, my brother. May I be addressed, gentleman from Taguig and Pateros, since
Oh,
our
that's
family is
correct.
from
My
Pateros.
apologies, my apologies.
And may I ask the lady from Taguig and Pateros if I can ask just one line, it's a question or two, just one line of questioning, and then maybe one proposal on our rules, and just 2 or 3 manifestations, because the Minority Leader would like to have time on this important topic. If the lady would yield, allow me to ask a question.
Of course, Mr. President.
Well, first of all, Mr. President, I grew up knowing her righteous anger as an ate. But what you saw today is her righteous anger as a mother. And I guess every single one of us who are elected to this body should really act that when we pass a law, it doesn't matter if we smoke or not, or if we vape or not. The question is, will we allow our children to do so? And para sa kalaman ng lahat, itong pinag-uusapan natin, hindi ko tatawagin batas kasi precisely my question is the validity. But this bill, from 21 years old, papayagan ng bentahan ang 18 years old mag-vape. So kung mahuli ng isang teacher sa senior high school ngayon, ang isang estudyante, ay pwedeng sagutin ng estudyante na ang mga congressman at senador natin ay sinabing pwede na kaming bentahan, bakit kayo mga teacher ayaw nyo kaming payagan? That's a huge irony that this bill will bring up. And secondly, as Senator Pia has distributed cosmetics kanina para makita natin, the irony nga is that all of this, and I remember reading an article na galit yung gobyerno kasi yung isang nagbebenta ng noodles ay binebenta na hindi naman pumasa pa sa FDA.
Yes.
Samantalang, 50,000 flavors na ang dinisapprove sa US because it's proven to have different negative health effects, no? Masama sa ating katawan, yet nililipat natin sa DTI. But yung aking question is dun po sa proseso at legal. Sa aking pagkaalam, plenary ang powers ng Congress. So the Constitution, and there's a case that is taught to first-year law students that ang powers ng Congress ay plenary, di ba? So ang limitation, siyempre, ng batas na ating ipapasa ay ang konstitusyon. Having said that, hindi continuing po ang Kongreso. That's why ngayon po tinatawag natin tong 19th Congress. So meaning, pag nag-adjourn po tayo, madalas gamitin, di ba, yung functus officio, or ibig sabihin, kumbaga sa tao, namamatay, except that ang Congress ay nabubuhay ulit or naboborn again sa susunod na Kongreso. So my question, actually not only to the lady from Taguig and Pateros, but to this body, and maybe this should be researched by our legal, is that if all of our bills have to be refiled once matapos yung Congress, can a bill that is sent to the President and then wala ng Kongreso, can it still come to life? Meaning the President can do three things. Sign it into law, veto it, or allow it to be lapsed into law. But if it is the 18th Congress that passed this law, what does the President, who's presiding over the 19th and 20th Congress, where does he derive his power to either sign it, veto it, or let it lapse into law? So probably if the advocates of tobacco are going to insist that it is now a law, then this will go to the Supreme Court. But I think we in the Senate have to decide ano ba stand natin. Kasi alam kong merong fast break, pero slow break itong ginawa eh. 'Di ba? Yung last minute pinadala. So I'd just like to ask if the our health advocate here agrees or that it is now a law, or are we ready to question given that it was passed by the 18th Congress?